Thank you, Denicia. Good morning, my fellow goofers. I'm Sabrina Walker. I have the honor of serving on the board as trustee and pastoral care committee. On the Sundays when Reverend Chris is in the pulpit, our Sunday service committee members share ministry by serving as Reverend Chris's worship associates. On Sundays when she is not in the pulpit, we carry forward our UU tradition of lay-led services from different leaders within and outside our congregation. Today is one of those services. Reverend Chris will be back next week with a sermon titled Stronger in the Broken Places. Also, a special welcome this morning to our visitors from the Southern District of the UUA. I believe Connie and Kathy are here today. Thank you for yesterday in particular. Yesterday's gathering in the fellowship hall on Leading with Love was very inspirational. Thank you again. Whether you have been with us on Sundays for a long time or are visiting us for the first time today, we welcome you to our service. This congregation is diverse in beliefs, with participation open to all who agree to embrace our covenant, mission, and values, regardless of your partisanship or lack thereof. We are a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, races, ethnicities, and abilities. We unconditionally welcome you as your full, authentic self to our community of care, spiritual growth, and personal growth. Our congregational mission is to strengthen our connections to one another and our planet by enlivening minds and spirits, building community through liberating love, and advocating fiercely for justice. It is a custom in this congregation to acknowledge visitors and newcomers. If it's your first time here, would you mind raising your hand so that we can acknowledge you? And I think I saw some old members as well, Kathy and Steve back there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. This green mug, all are invited to join us for coffee after the service. New and newish folks are invited to grab this mug located just inside the door of the fellowship hall so that we can easily spot you and speak to you during our coffee hour. You are also welcome to fill out one of the gold cards located in the pew in front of you so you can stay informed regarding all of our activities. Simply drop the card in the offering basket or in the box at the hello table in the foyer. For a list of what's going on today after the service, please check out the list on the back of your printed order of service. There you will also find a QR code that links to our recent news editions. Please know that whatever your religious history, whatever your spirituality, all people of goodwill are welcome here. Your presence makes us better. Your presence makes us whole. One quick announcement. There is lots of leftover food from yesterday's Lead with Love event in the fellowship hall. At coffee hour, be prepared to enjoy sweets, fruits, and sandwiches. And I just saw Connie and Kathy come in, and I'd like to especially welcome you to our service today. Trying to sneak in. Our service will now begin.
That was the thing to do. Good job. Good morning. My name is Anna Crow. I'm your worship associate this morning. And Steve and Kathy is why I had to put my glasses on. I was like, no, it's, oh, wow, it is. Look at that. We light this chalice for the ones who arrive disheveled, carrying questions, contradictions, grief half-healed, and dreams still raw. You deserve a place that welcomes your becoming, that knows your fire is not too much and your silence is not too little. A place that sees your shadows and still reaches for your light. You deserve a community that listens when you speak your truth, that sits with you in your turmoil and rises with you in your joy, that believes your voice even when it trembles. You deserve a circle that brings you hope and coffee and poetry, a place to rest and a place to rise. Let this flame be that place, not perfect, but possible, not without cracks, but full of light.
We've got such a hearty welcome today. Come into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come, and you shall know peace and joy. And I want to say a little bit about the hymn today because it's not in your hymn book. It is actually from the Christian Science hymnal, which is the denomination I grew up in, and it was my mother's favorite. We sang it here about 1.5 years ago, and we're going to do it again. It just speaks to how we can cross the bridges that separate us in this world today. It's called Speak Gently.
Good morning. I'm David Funderburk. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at Goof. And before our story today, I want to remind all families who have kids that are from kindergarten to 5th grade, from about 4 years old to 10 years old, I invite you to sign up for our Passport Pals program, which is starting soon. If you sign up, then we will pair each kid who signs up with a trusted adult from our congregation, and we'll give you a little booklet of activities that you can do with that adult during coffee hour so that we can build a few more connections between your kid and other trusted adults in our community. So if that sounds interesting to you, please take a look at the posters that are in the hallway that say Passport Pals on them, and it has a little more information for you there. So I want to welcome any children or youth or anyone of any age who'd like to hear our story a little bit more up close to come sit up front in the front pews or on the floor at the base of the steps. Good morning. Our story today, and our whole service today, is about listening. So I hope you can practice that while we're reading today. Have you ever been in a situation where you were listening to someone was telling you about something they wanted to share or maybe a problem they were having, and it occurred to you that you weren't really listening to them at all. You were just trying to figure out what you were going to say to respond to them, and then maybe you didn't even really hear what they said? Well, or has anyone shared a problem with you and you immediately tried to fix it when maybe they didn't want you to fix it? Well, our story today is about how important it is to listen well. And it's called I Have a Little Problem, Said the Bear, by Hans Janisch and Silke Leffler. And I ordered a copy of this book for our RE library, and the only place I could find it was at Goodwill in Minneapolis. And it turns out they've been pretty busy in Minneapolis with a lot of other things, and our book is still in the mail, so we have the next best thing up here. I have a little problem, said the bear. I have a little problem, said the bear. You see, Of course, said the inventor. I know exactly what you need. A heavy bear like you needs something to make him feel lighter. I have just the thing. He got a pair of wings from his workshop and fastened them to the bear's shoulders. Said the bear. Then he shrugged and went along, looking worried. I have a little problem, said the bear. You see, indeed I do, said the tailor. Your wings are very handsome, but you need a scarf. And he wound a long scarf around the bear's neck. Said the bear. Then he shrugged and went along, looking worried. I have a little problem, said the bear. I'm just the man you're looking for, said the hatter. Now don't say a word. I have just the thing for you. And he placed a fine hat on the bear's head. Said the bear. Then he shrugged and went along, looking worried. I have a little problem, said the bear. I can tell just by looking at you, said the doctor. My special vitamins will have you fit as a fiddle in no time. He handed the bear a box of vitamins. Take one every morning. Said the bear. And he shrugged and went along, looking worried. Said the bear. Well, I can see you have a problem, said the eye doctor. That's why I'm here. She placed a pair of glasses on the bear's nose. Now isn't that better? Said the bear. Then he shrugged and went along, looking worried. I have a little, said the bear. Problem, said the street vendor. But I have the cure. This little charm will bring you good luck wherever you go. And he hung a silver pig on a chain around the bear's neck. Said the bear. Then he shrugged and went along, looking worried. I have, said the bear. A little problem, said the shopkeeper. Well, never you worry, my dear. This honey will sweeten up your life in no time. And she handed the bear a jar of honey. Said the bear. And he shrugged and went off looking worried. Said the bear. You have a problem, said the shoemaker. You need boots. She pulled a pair of boots from a box. A real bear needs real boots, she said. And these are the best boots I have, a perfect fit. Said the bear. And then he shrugged and went along, looking worried. At the top of a hill, the bear stopped. He looked back over the town and shook his head. He was worn out. The bear unfastened his wings. He took off his hat and scarf. He took off his glasses and the pig on a chain. He kicked off his boots. He set the vitamins and honey on the ground. Then he sat down on the hill and sighed. What's the matter? Asked a fly on a blade of grass beside him. I don't want to talk about it, said the bear. No one listens to me anyway. I'm listening, said the fly. Tell me about it. I have a little problem, said the bear. You see, I'm afraid of the dark. Alone in my cave. There's no other bears for miles around, and I don't know anyone who wants to sleep in my cave with me. I dread the darkness all day long. That really is a problem, said the fly, but I have a solution. It just so happens that I'm looking for somewhere to live. A bear's cave sounds very cozy. I could move in with you. What do you say? Said the bear. I feel better already. So the fly hopped onto the bear's shoulder, where she made herself comfortable. Then off they went together, looking happy. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to follow me to head out to RE classes this morning, please do so.
Today is our Share the Plate Sunday. Half of today's offering will be shared with our community partner, We the People. We the People Greenville is dedicated to educating our community on issues related to democracy, fostering connections that transcend differences, and advocating for justice and equity for all of our upstate neighbors. This work is rooted in love and in generosity. If you are contributing your pledge today, please be sure to write pledge on your check or on your cash envelope. All other funds received will be split 50-50 with our Share the Plate recipient. Since this initiative emphasizes sharing, please do not write checks directly to the charity. The offering will now be gratefully received. It is our custom in this fellowship to share the joys and the sorrows that shape our lives, honoring each one with the lighting of a candle. We all have moments of celebration and struggle. By sharing these experiences with one another, we can support and uplift each other on our journeys. Our first three today are anonymous, but also very heavy. So while you can't focus your spirit, let's just send it out into the broader world. My twin brother died last month of pulmonary fibrosis. He embodied what it means to be kind. I tried to live up to his standard. I am grateful his suffering is over. My eldest brother is in the hospital with a blood infection. He's on antibiotics and hopes to be home soon. My other brother just had open heart surgery. He is home and doing well. I'm grateful I can pick up the phone and keep up with his progress. I have such a heavy heart. My dear friend and coworker of 13 years lost his battle with depression last week. We are all shocked and devastated as we try to accept he is gone. Please keep his family in your thoughts. I hope he has found peace. This is from Chris Corey. I would like to thank all the thrift store Audrey's Closet volunteers. Last week, 14 refugees from Myanmar, Syria, Nigeria, and Central America got to shop for free at our thrift store. They got baby clothes, silverware, blankets, warm coats, and so much more. I so appreciate that the thrift store not only helps our planet by recycling and raises money for the UU, but also on occasion can help individuals in our local community. From Karen Conrad, happy to share that Morgan's Hope Recovery will soon be acquiring a 6th house that will be able to house 38 residents and then looking at a 7th. If anyone knows of a reliable used minivan reasonably priced, we could sure use another. Just contact Karen Conrad. A candle of joy and gratitude to Linda Turner and the Goof volunteers at Audrey's Closet for their ongoing support of Upstate Food Not Bombs with their mission to help those in need in our San Souci neighborhood. Their most recent donation answered an urgent call for newborn infant clothing and again for larger sizes of men's sneakers. From Lisa Walters, we are mourning the loss of Nicole Bateman's elderly dog Sprinkles, and also our cousin Buddy, both all-time best snugglers who we will miss terribly. A candle of joy for the newest team member of the Planetary Health Alliance with Johns Hopkins. It's signed a proud mom, and I know who it is, but she didn't put her name on there, so I won't out her. She'll tell you, though. A candle of joy and gratitude for our UUA Southern Region rock star leaders who have spent the week in Greenville enriching all of us. That is from Sean Trapp. I second. We will light a final candle representing all of the joys and sorrows present in our hearts that remain unspoken. We will now observe a moment of silence before the meditation words begin.
How do we hear each other across chasms of difference? The differences that separate us from others are deep and perhaps unprecedented in our lifetime. Kindness, respect, and exploring solutions side by side are what we need as we build a civil society. It starts with listening. Now, let's join in singing hymn number 1023, Building Bridges. When I was a junior at Greenville High School, my best friend Wally wanted to run away from home. He had used his paper money to buy a $900 Gerard Perregaux watch for a girl, and now she was breaking up with him. He was devastated and immediately turned to me. He proposed that we run away from home. I don't think he knew this, but it was like my best friend was asking me to elope. And I was all in. Yes, I said, I'll go with you, but first I have to ask my mother. So let's pause for a moment. What child asks his mother permission to run away from home? What deep level of trust and love does it betoken that a child would want to ask this? And what mother? Think about your kid comes to you and says, I want to run away from home. What mother remains calm, wise, and unthreatening in the face of such a question? She must have taken a deep breath, and then she said, when we run away from our problems, they follow us. If you change your geographical location, that doesn't change the underlying conditions of the problem. When you get there, those problems will still be with you. I told Wally what she said, and we stayed home and finished our school. To me, the takeaway from this story is that my mother responded with love. There was no anger or fear. She heard me. In a way, she felt Wally's pain, and that is what she addressed. This is an example of deep listening. Today I'm going to tell you more stories about the redemptive power of listening. In one story I will tell you about a leading white nationalist who was transformed by the love and deep listening of his college friends. I will tell you about a woman who was sexually assaulted in a fraternity and returned to the fraternity decades later to an uncertain reception. And finally, I'll tell you about my own transformation 9 days ago by the listening and persistent questions posed by a trans student who had the courage to quietly resist my ill-conceived feedback as a teacher. My views about listening were supercharged years ago when I heard a sermon by Meg Barnhouse at the UU Church in Austin, Texas. Some of you will remember Meg. She preached in this sanctuary quite a few times. Meg died January 26th in her home in Texas after a long and courageous journey with cancer. And just so you know, and you might want to make a note of this date if you care to, there will be a service at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin on February 28th at 11 a.m., and it will be live streamed, so I think you can look it up. In 2018, when I was in Austin, Meg and I had lunch together. I was able to hear her sermon the next day, and she talked about the FBI's hostage negotiation manual. She said the expert the negotiator will ask questions and listen deeply. As Meg described it, they will ask open-ended questions, reflect back what the other person said, and continue asking questions of the negotiator until they have a deep understanding of the hostage taker's views, emotions, and needs. The way Meg put it, and she was always funny, you keep going till you have such an empathetic understanding that at last you feel you want to go out and take a hostage yourself. So, one of the FBI's leading hostage negotiators was Chris Voss, and he told an interviewer, "There's no negotiation methodology that doesn't list listening as an advanced skill." And I'm glad that David touched on some of those advanced skills during his story. You don't always try to solve somebody's problem or fix it. Sometimes it's important just to be there and hear. Empathy will cross so many bridges between a bear and a tiny little fly. Yes. Now, I want to introduce you to one of my professors at East Tennessee State University, where I'm pursuing a master's degree in communication and storytelling. Her name is Nancy Donoval, and I'm in her course in storytelling for social change. At the end, I'll probably, the final assignment is to tell a story for about 28 to 30 minutes. And I think it will probably be, in my case, about coming out. Recently, I was telling her my plans for this sermon, and she mentioned a story that she's told many times. During college, she was sexually assaulted in a fraternity house. 32 years later, she was invited to return to the campus to tell her story. And a few days before that event, she met in the fraternity house with 20 of the brothers, and as she said, it felt like the most awkward blind date ever. Me and 20 fraternity guys trying to figure out how to ask each other to a dance. One guy said something that seemed to concern a lot of the men. He was shaking, she said, and he said, "I'm afraid you're going to name our fraternity and it will destroy us. That was a long time ago. We're good guys. It can't happen here." And as she recalled, after I listened to them, they listened to me. That's important. After I listened to them, they listened to me. I've told my story many places, but it was never as intimate as it was in that circle of couches. When I told them they could ask me anything, they really stepped up to the honesty plate. I loved that they trusted me enough that they asked what they really wanted to know. They asked her, "How long before you were able to have sex and enjoy it? How long before you drank again and weren't afraid? And what can we do to make sure this never happens again?" Do you see the transformation in that third question? They had started by assuring Nancy that this could never happen again. And now, after all the listening back and forth, they were asking her how to make it sure it doesn't happen again. Now, I want to move on and talk about a radical transformation that resulted in part from deep listening. This story is told in a book called Rising Out of Hatred, The Awakening of a Former White Nationalist by the Pulitzer Prize-winning author Eli Sislow. Derek Black was the son of a grand wizard in the Ku Klux Klan, and he was the godson of David Duke, the well-known neo-Nazi white supremacist. Derek's father started a 2-hour daily broadcast on the radio, and by the age of 12, Derek was joining in, and soon was actually behaving as an equal partner with his father in this 2-hour propaganda broadcast about white supremacy. Derek, even as a teenager, created a website that was widely followed on this topic. He was brilliant beyond his years, and many thought he was the future of the white nationalist movement. After high school, he made a fateful choice to attend New College in Sarasota, Florida, a small liberal arts college with a very diverse student body. The first person he met when he came on campus was an immigrant Peruvian student, and they became friends. Then he met 2 Jewish students, and they became friends. This was the beginning of a double life. Every morning he would go out on the lawn with his phone and talk for 2 hours. And he told his friend he was talking to his family, but he was actually participating in the radio broadcast of this organization his father had started called Stormfront. Then, every Friday night, he would participate in a Jewish Shabbat dinner with his various friends until one day his life was exposed on the campus's social media. Word spread quickly, and many students began to freeze him out. Some students would even transfer out of their class when they found that he was in that same course. But most of his Shabbat students stuck with him. Face to face, he was a very kind person, fun to be around, and he was brilliant. His professors, especially those who noticed his deep interest and knowledge of medieval history, really respected him. Later, he would score 97th percentile on the GRE, the graduate record exam, for verbal reasoning. Derek was bringing this brilliance to bear on the promotion of white nationalism. He pioneered in softening the image of the movement. Racial epithets were out, for example. He perfected the dog whistles and reasoning that gave white nationalism a veneer of respectability while appealing to a radical base. Derek was not just parroting what he heard, he laid the groundwork for the mainstreaming of the white nationalist agenda, an agenda that we see being carried out today by the Trump wing of the Republican Party. One of the Shabbat diners was a student named Allison. When she realized what he was about, she started staying away, but eventually she returned. And over time, she and Derek bonded, and this is where listening comes in. She asked him a lot of questions that forced him to think deeply about his beliefs, while making it clear that she did not agree with him. She even visited his family and attended a Stormfront conference. When they asked what she thought of it, she would just say, "Oh, that's interesting." He had been promoting pseudoscience, claiming to prove that black people were inferior in intelligence, more prone to violence. Allison presented him with studies that contradicted the pseudoscience supporting his racial beliefs. By that point in the relationship, there had been so much listening, and she had asked so many questions that she was at that same stage that we talked about with the hostage negotiators, where they're willing to listen. The person on the other side is willing to listen, and he did. And slowly he began to question his beliefs. In 2013, less than 3 years after entering New College, he made a 180-degree pivot from white nationalism. Rather than face the hatred of his former followers, however, he wanted to go and hide. He legally changed his name, but his girlfriend eventually convinced him that After more than 10 years of campaigning for white nationalism, he had done so much harm, he was obliged to do anything he could to help undo the damage. Shortly after Donald Trump was elected president in 2016, the New York Times published an op-ed by Derek, and here's part of what he wrote. The wave of violence and vile language that has risen since the election is only the one immediate piece of evidence that this campaign's reckless assertion of white identity comes at a huge cost. More and more people are being forced to recognize what I learned early. Our country is susceptible to some of our worst instincts when the message is packaged correctly. No checks and balances can redeem what we've unleashed. The reality is that half of the voters chose white supremacy. During my conversation with my storytelling professor, Nancy Donoval, she cautioned me that radical transformations like that of Derek Black are rare. Rare, yes, but not impossible. Remember, Jesus was a friend of publicans and sinners. Can we not be likewise? I told Nancy that I now had two stories, her fraternity story and the transformation of Derek Black, but I needed a third. This is kind of a rule of threes. I need one more, and I think it should be a story of how I listened to someone and how they were changed. And she immediately responded, no, it should be a story about how someone listened to you and you were changed. Now, I couldn't think of anything like that. I couldn't think. But the universe must have been listening, perhaps eavesdropping, because the next day I had my transformation story. One where someone else did the listening and I was the one who changed. 9 days ago, as a teaching assistant, I was conducting a class where the students presented a beginner-level speech to introduce themselves. My boss, Mrs. Weaver, designs the course and lectures to 100 or more students every Monday, and then later in the week, several teaching assistants conduct breakout sessions. One student at this breakout session, the last one to speak for that day, had consistently been signing the sign-in sheet with Mr. before his name to forestall any doubt. In his introduction, he said, I use he, him pronouns, and yes, I'm aware of how I present myself to the world. There was more of interest, but after the speech, I brought up the issue of business casual, which our lecturer, Mrs. Weaver, had mentioned several times. This young transgender man was wearing purple boots with 2-inch black platforms, black leggings that came down to the boots, a black silky skirt, a dark gray sweater, a string of pearls, and black makeup covering his lips and surrounding his Van Dyke. He had glasses with purple heart-shaped lenses, vividly pink cheeks, and long black hair with purple streaks gathered at the back. He asked me what about this outfit was not business casual. You laugh. I was taken aback. This man had been bullied all his life. He had started life as a girl. He just, in his speech, he said he just wanted to survive. Just wanted to get through life. And I was calling him out about his appearance. I didn't want to tell him what to wear, but he was challenging me to tell him what not to wear. I mentioned the glasses. He said the colored glasses filtered out light and would cause him, and he didn't wear them, he would have seizures. Okay, I said. He said, what about this is not business casual? And I said, if you were ever in a boardroom, some of the people you want to hear you will be distracted and have trouble getting past your appearance. I'll never be in a boardroom, he said. Probably true. He had told us, I'm what I like to call a jack-of-all-trades artist. He just wanted to do art. His senior thesis is a queer comic called Run Rabbit. He kept asking me, what about this is not business casual? I mentioned the makeup, and he said, well, next time I won't wear makeup. The conversation went on for at least 10 minutes as other students were fully attentive. I talked about how jeans were once not acceptable, but now they are. Maybe someday your clothing will be. He said, we are already much farther along. Immediately after my class, I returned to my car. I sat in the driver's seat, and my heart was racing. And I called Mrs. Weaver. I described the student's wardrobe, and she said it was acceptable as business casual. She would be more concerned about distracting colors, ripped jeans, exposed bellies, and shirts or blouses with a missing shoulder. And it dawned on me, if a woman had worn leggings, platforms, and a skirt, I might not have brought it up. I was judging business casual according to a gender binary mode. The student missed class all last week because of illness, but when we are back in the breakout session this coming Wednesday, I plan to apologize and thank him for the persistent asking of open-ended questions and allowing me to learn from him. Now, as I draw to a close, I want to think about Derek Black. Before his turnaround, Derek had tidied up the language of white nationalist propaganda in a way that helped elect a white nationalist president. Can we despise and ostracize a huge slice of the American electorate? We're all going to encounter these people sometimes. We need their help to build a better world. We aren't going to cross the divide by aggressively insisting on our point of view. Our task now is to be the hostage negotiator. Ask open-ended questions about their views and values. Ask in an open way if they can share their evidence. Reply with statements like, so I hear you saying, did I get that right? Rinse and repeat. Only then, when they know your values and beliefs, and will they be open to hearing you. And of course, all this communication is done calmly, with empathy and respect. Speak gently. It is better to rule by love than fear. Now, let's move on to our closing hymn. Stand as you are willing and able. Number 117.
Please join me in reading the words in your order of service and on the screen behind me as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we conclude this service, let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain, and the soft, gentle coming of love.